Welcome to this edition of Platform. The principal demand of the NSAS movement is the disbanding of the Nigeria Police Force Special Anti-Robbery Squad (SAS). On October 11, 2020, Inspector General of Police Mohammed Adamu dissolved SAS across the 36 state police commands and the Federal Capital Territory (FCT). In an address to the nation, President Muhammadu Buhari on October 12, 2020, assured that the disbanding of the SAS is only the first step in his administration's commitment to extensive police reforms. In order to, in his words, ensure that the primary duty of police and other law enforcement agencies remains the protections of the lives and livelihood of our people, end of quote. Again, President Buhari says his administration will ensure that all persons responsible for misconduct or wrongful acts are brought to justice. Following this commitment, the National Economic Council, under the chairmanship of the Vice President Yemi Osinbajo, directed all state governments to constitute committees of inquiry to investigate and prosecute perpetrators of violence. The administration's commitment to provide an effective police service that complies with the principles of accountability and transparency was further made manifest with President Buhari's signing into law of the Police Bill 2020, now the Police Act 2020. Again, President Muhammadu Buhari virtually commissioned the headquarters of the building of the Nigeria Police Forces Pension Limited, Tuesday, 20th October 2020. This edition of Platform examines the issues and challenges of police reform. Our guest is former Inspector General of Police Suleiman Abba, who is now the Chairman, Nigeria Police Force Pension Limited. Suleiman Abba is a lawyer who served as Nigeria's 17th Inspector General of Police from August 2014 to April 2015. President Muhammadu Buhari appointed Suleiman Abba Chairman of the Board of the Police Trust Fund in May 2020. Former Inspector General of Police Suleiman Abba, welcome to Platform.
My pleasure to be with you. And good afternoon, viewers.
With me, of course, is our permanent panelist, Ruth Aguele.
Thank you very much.
Once again, Suleiman Abba, welcome to Platform. Of course, we have to begin from the ongoing developments. The NSAS movement and the protests appear to have shown that their greatest demand was the disbandment of, or rather disbanding of NSAS or SAS. And that appears to be their primary focus. This was done on the 11th of October 2020 when the Inspector General of Police announced the disbandment of SAS. But it appears the destructions, the protests continued. What, in your opinion, is responsible for that?
Well, I think we are mistaking the primary, demand of the protesters. The primary demand of the protesters, to me, is the reform of the Nigeria police as a whole. And this is with a view to reforming the police to the extent to which it will become a democratic police. It will comply with the tenets of democracy and the teachings of human rights, particularly those enshrined in Chapter 4 of our Constitution. And they would also want to see a police that they would want to dictate how it should police them. And there's nothing wrong about that. In fact, that is one of the principles of community policing. For the community to say, this is how we want you to police us. So it is a clear expression of how they want to be policed. And there's nothing wrong about that at all.
Well, if that holistic manifest hope and aspiration is what it is, why the destruction? Why the killings?
Well, I think these are issues that are subject to investigations. That is to say, to determine what went wrong, who did what, and how it resulted into violence, if you like, violence that unfortunately resulted in loss of life. But as to the aspect of who did what, I'm glad it has become a subject of investigation. And it's not only affecting what happened recently, that is to say with regards to the protests, but is being extended to what caused the main problem. And those of us who have a stake in it, we are concerned and we would want to see justice done. If for so many years there had been injustice on the part of those who are to protect the law and to protect the society and to even comply with, the principles of policing, and perhaps allowed things to go wrong, we are interested to know what went wrong. And we would want to see justice where injustice has been meted to innocent people.
So let's go to the root causes of all of this. From your opening remarks, you talked about the whole essence, the primary essence is the reform of the police force.
Yes.
Now, in the past, there has been series of reform. 2006, 2008, 2012, but over time, we have seen that those reforms or interventions have failed, to produce the significant and fundamental improvement when we're talking police service delivery. Why is that so?
Well, it is so because we've had, I'm sure you are talking about the Amademi Committee, the Pari Osayende Committee,
yes,
the MDUC Committee. They have not made significant impact in terms of reforming the police because the main recommendations of those committees are mainly 3 to 4. If you group them into 3, for example, almost all of them talk about the inadequate funding of the police. They talk about the lack of sufficient manpower in the police. And they also talk about the poor state of the welfare of policemen. Now, there has been no resolve and movement or actions to implement anything that will see the effect of these 3 recommendations. Perhaps, and this is where it is becoming a task on me and my fellow trustees in the Nigeria Police Trust Fund. If I tell you, and it is there, Section 5, right from Section 1 anyway, of the Nigeria Police Trust Fund Establishment Act, it says the whole objective of the act is to improve the funding of the Nigeria Police. Now, with improved funding, it then means that all those 3 recommendations of all the committees combined can be taken care of. And that is to say, now there is a clear, worked out, resolve by government, the government of the President, Muhammadu Buhari, to see to the implementation of the reform. Now, in clear terms, the objectives of the trust fund is to achieve 3 things. To train and retrain the police personnel, that is to say police officers and other supporting staff, in terms of modern policing. Second, to purchase modern equipment that can be used in, or that we see in modern policing in other parts of the world. 3, to do everything possible that will improve or lead to the improvement of the welfare of police personnel. And this includes getting sufficient barracks and renovating the existing ones, renovating them to make them comfortable enough for an average family. Enough rooms, sufficient water supply, and electricity. Then perhaps you now go on to roads, road networks, sports facilities, health, schools, and so on. So clearly, the objectives of the trust fund is to achieve three things: train and retrain police officers, fund the equipping of the police, and then the welfare.
So where is the trust fund going to get all that money? Is it is that the act establishing the trust fund stipulates that the police now, the Nigeria Police Force will now also come through the first line charge, for example, or what?
Now, what has happened, the issue of first line charge for the police, I'm happy to say that while I was Inspector General of Police, I was assisted to make quite a reasonable progress. The committee chaired by Senator McCarthy at the Senate then, and the one chaired by the Deputy Speaker then in the House, helped in that regard. So to some extent, the IGP has some level of improvement in terms of how he controls the funding that goes to his office. But going straight into your question, where will the trust fund get the money? Section 4 of the trust fund provides for the sources of the fund. The sources are 0.5% of total revenue accrued in the Federation account.
Wow.
That is at every end of the month. The council sits, it shares, and 0.5% is kept aside for the trust fund. Second, 0.005% of the total profit declared by every company operating in Nigeria will also go to the purse of the trust fund. It is one of the, I would say, innovations that I've seen, very beautiful innovation. It can seek for and take aids, donations, bequeathment, and so on from within the country and without the country. What I'm looking forward to is, particularly from without the country, are mainly, aids that will lead into many training of police personnel overseas. That means the good old days where almost every average police officer gets a chance to go overseas and get trained may return.
Okay, but go. Are you
Right.
done? Okay.
Yes.
No, I don't like to even continue. Where are we now? Have you started? And if you have, how far have you gone?
Well, let me say that we've gone very far. First and foremost, we've laid a good foundation. The trustees agreed that we bring in KPMG. KPMG, is an internationally recognized auditing firm that has laid the foundation for our financial guidelines, administrative guidelines, including our structure and so on. We have gone very far in that regard. They have given us the strategies, and we've adopted them. And I would say that people should feel comfortable that we have laid a foundation where transparency and accountability is the watchword. KPMG is an integrity known outfit, and that is why we brought them. And there is a resolve among the trustees to, according to our standing order, operate without putting our own even personal interests in the operation of, particularly in doing expenditure. Where have we gone so far? So far, with expenditure, we are about to start. And that is because the board technically have gone through a problem that is just being solved now, and which means expenditures will begin. We've already passed the 2020 budget. We are working on the 2021 budget. I won't tell you how much we have in our purse, but I must say that government has been putting aside, as promised, the 0.05%. It may look small, but it's a big money. And we've also taken the needs of the Nigeria police, to whom
you've done a needs assessment.
We have done the need assessment. They have made their own submissions, and like I said, we passed the budget, and we know where to go to immediately. But the developments, recent developments, have really made us to take another look at the budget itself, so that we do more on the welfare of the personnel. I had taken a tour of police barracks in Lagos, at Obalande, at Aja, so Ije Barracks, which is not far from Obalande Barracks. I have also been to Bompai Barracks in Kano. So I have a reasonable understanding of the situation of things. Some of them, I would say, they are not encouraging at all. Such that if I had my way, some of the structures there, I won't allow any police officer to sleep in them again until perhaps they are either renovated or knocked down completely.
We're looking at 372,000 police officers, about,
right,
or more.
Right.
Now, from what you're saying, if every police officer will benefit from this training, which is critical for their, constitutional responsibilities, how will you achieve that? Because if everyone will have to benefit from it, it will require funding. And from what you're saying, the funds will not even be enough. Now, but we have seen an increase, because you mentioned budget. Now, this year's budget, there was an 11% increase from 403.45 billion naira to 447.6 billion naira for the police allocation.
Right.
Now, what about international interventions? Because I know there are international interventions, the DFID.
Correct.
Now, what are the strings you're going to look at? Because you can't have some benefit and some not benefit.
Right. Well, we are not stopping the local training at all. And we are also not stopping the budget that the police have traditionally been doing for training. But the only thing we will do is we will guide against duplication. And in any case, one of the trustees is the DG budget of the Federation. He represents the Federal Ministry for Finance, Budget and Planning. And so you can see we have proper guidance. And in doing that, we would support the Nigeria Police in ensuring that whatever they cannot do with their budget, we come into support in that regard. That can even include renovating the training institution itself, so that trainees can be more comfortable. Now, I tell you, what we may get from international donors and partners, and let me tell you that we have a whole department for AIDS donation and partnership, and it's headed by someone who is an asset, I will say, a trustee that heads the committee this time around, or a committee of the board. He is a management consultant with international connections. He had and he still runs some of his business activities in UK and the United States. Already he has begun the connections, and that is part of the commencement of activities that I'm talking about, we've established, as part of the recommendations of KPMG, that we have committees, 3 committees, in addition to the statutory committee already established by the law. Now, one of the committees, like I said, is to deal with partnership. So already, he's already started making contacts with partners within and outside the country.
Like Ruth said, 372,000 policemen for a country of almost 200 million, 774 local governments. What is your take?
It's inadequate. I will say it everywhere. It's inadequate. And I have said it before, and I'm happy the government had, for some time, looked at the issue of shortage of manpower for the police. That is why the Orasanya Committee recommended that the civil defense, for example, and the road safety should be merged with the Nigeria police, so that duplication of responsibilities, one, will be taken care of, as well as, the harnessing of resources, assets, can also be effected, and then the manpower of the police will greatly improve. I'm just imagining, if for any reason I'm the Inspector General of Police, and I wake up and the government says it has given me additional 120,000 personnel, I am not sure I will sleep for the next 7 days, and I will be comfortable. Because even without it, I'm sure the Inspector General of Police does not get more than 4 hours sleep in a night. And if he gets this kind of, cake, I would say, he has some energy to keep him moving.
So if Orasanya recommended this merger, what, in your opinion, has been the challenge or problem?
Well, I may not be in a position to talk about that. Perhaps the office of the Secretary to the Government of the Federation, who I believe is coordinating some of this. But I can remember a few months ago, government established a committee that was assigned to dust that report and come up with further recommendations. And I believe the situation, COVID has put the economy of all countries of the world, has made countries or governments to begin to look inwards with regards to, shortening or reducing wastages and such spendings.
Okay, but why, how often, should I say rather, does the police recruit? Because if you're going to meet the margin, you need recruitment.
That's true.
You need more manpower.
That's true.
Now, how often do they recruit? And when we're talking about, reaching out and filling the gap, there's been a debate on community and state policing. Is that a way out? Because people have, argued about that.
True. Thank you very much. I think you've said it all with regards to finding solutions to the problem of manpower. For recruitment, I would say recruitment should be a continuous exercise. Unfortunately, we've had governments in the past in this country where recruitment was not done at all for many years. And I believe this is part of the backlog of what we are suffering with in terms of manpower today. Recruitment should be a continuous exercise, is per your need. I'm happy the government has approved that 10,000 policemen be recruited every year. That is a progress we've never seen before. And
did that happen last year?
It happened last year, yes.
Okay. Is it going to happen this year?
This year too, recruitment has been done. In fact, they were at the stage of the final screening before, unfortunately, court made a decision that the Police Service Commission is responsible for recruitment rather than the Nigeria Police. Those of us, the retired police inspectors general of police, I was assigned actually to coordinate, a meeting of the retired inspectors general of police And last Friday, we had a meeting in the office of the Inspector General of Police, and part of what we discussed was resolving the matter. Believe you me, yesterday by this time, I was at the Police Service Commission with senior retired IGP Mike Okiro, intervening in resolving the matter, and we made a headway. If not because the IGP has been in a meeting since morning in the villa, perhaps we would have resolved the matter. And very soon you will hear that this matter is resolved.
Well, as a lawyer, as a former IG yourself, who do you think should be responsible for recruitment? The Nigeria Police Force under the Inspector General of Police or the Police Service Commission?
There's something you forgot to mention. I was also a liaison officer between the police and the Police Service Commission.
Exactly, you are, yes.
And
it appears you are still continuing that liaison at a higher level.
Yes, I agree, I accept. I was Deputy Commissioner of Police Personnel, and at the same time, liaison officer between the police and the Police Service Commission. This I did in the year 2002 up to 2005. When I also became Commissioner of Police, I was returned back before I went to NIPS, and also served as Deputy First Secretary for 1 year. Now, the main responsibility then was, dealing with personnel matters. And so I knew the responsibilities of the Police Service Commission, and I had been involved in the exercises. The fact of the matter, and I'm being truthful about it, and is what we are working on now, and we are making headway in that regard. It is the responsibility of both the Office of the Inspector General of Police or the Nigeria Police Force and the Police Service Commission to conduct recruitment, appointment, or whatever you want.
Promotions.
Promotions, yes. That too is the combination of the two, because the Inspector General of Police recommends and then the Police Service Commission approves. This has been the tradition, and to even make it easy for the Police Service Commission, it normally delegates the responsibilities of promotions, discipline from certain rank, especially from the rank of superintendent down, is left to the Office of the Inspector General of Police, while the Commission takes the responsibility for CSP and above with regards to discipline, especially discipline.
Okay, let's look.
So why do you think the frictions now came in? Was it that when you left that liaison office, nobody was doing any liaison, or what was responsible?
I think that's one of the things we discussed yesterday. It has always been there. Almost all Inspectors General of Police have had cause to challenge why the Police Service Commission should take the dominant part in recruitment exercises. And I think it is because the Police Service Commission do not have the capacity in terms of manpower to conduct this vigorous exercise. Remember, it is an exercise where if you miss it, you might cause the kind of problems that we are having today. I want to say that one of the main problems that made us to cause these problems for us, and I'm including myself, because it touches me very much, is the method of recruiting officers from the general duty to SAS. Perhaps if they had maintained proper screening, what happened? The number of body acts wouldn't have increased, and the situation we find ourselves today.
We were told there was no criteria to become a SAS officer.
Well, there has always been, but I think if you want us to discuss that issue, I would say that there was a time when such important aspects were thrown to the background, and we are paying the price today.
Another issue was the issue of structure and command. SARS was operating parallel to the state commands and the commissioners of police. Since now the Inspector General of Police is bringing in a new outfit, SWAT, what will be your advice?
Wow, believe you me, go back to the structure that SARS, started with. I was a commissioner of police in Rivers. I inherited a situation where the commander of SARS was reporting to the office of the commissioner of police. And I knew it was wrong because I was an assistant commissioner of police in charge of investigations in the FCT. And SARS was reporting to me, not to the commissioner of police. And that was why when the millionaire armed robbers were disturbing Abuja, and I was summoned and given a challenge to arrest them, because the belief then was that they were remnants of the guards in the villa that were committing that crime. And since I was there, I had worked with them, the belief was that I should be the guy to do it. And I went out, kept it as a challenge, followed it until the gangs, it's a one gang that broke into two. One of the gang made a mistake. They left an evidence. I picked it, followed it, and we were able to go to Ikorodu. The beauty of it was that I used solely SARS personnel. I, in charge of the department, SARS, a unit of the department. I led them personally. We drove from Abuja at night to Lagos, picked the first guy, went to Wari, picked the second guy, went back to Lagos, picked the third guy, went to Abo, picked the fourth one, came to Abuja and got the information where the remnants or the remaining part of the gang were at Agura Hotel here near us. And personally, I led again, and we got about 5 of them, making total of about 9. And that was the gang. This was a gang that terrorized Abuja, 2009, 2019. 2009, yes, 2010. 2009.
But from what you're saying, there's no doubt that SARS, before they were disbanded, there's intelligence when we're talking about the dismantling of their jobs. But where, everything went wrong was abuse of power. And if you mentioned discipline earlier, let's look at the issue of discipline, which is very key for every officer or every force. If you must conduct yourself, it says a lot about the perception people get from the kind of person you are as a force and the kind of reception, you get from people. So would you say everything went wrong as a result of lack of discipline? Because they're intelligent.
You got it. And you are talking to a student of discipline. In 2009, when I went to NIPS, everybody make a choice of his topic. I was given a challenge. I was given the topic, Discipline in the Nigeria Police, an assessment. I took the challenge, made a beautiful research, and that made me to focus on attitudinal change as I progress. So when I became Inspector General of Police, my focus, my main vision was to have a police force that is transformed through attitudinal change. And we started implementing it. One of the areas of implementation was a card where we printed the attributes of a police officer. These attributes are mainly saying it is an attribute of a police officer to have a deep understanding of the law and police duties. It is an attribute of a police officer to do his work above sentiments of either tribe, religion, section, and so on. Now, I challenged police officers to crime them. And believe you me, they were doing it. Then election came. The party in power lost. And in Africa, we still find scapegoats. And I became the scapegoat. And that's how I died. But coming back to the discipline, the importance of discipline can never be underestimated. And you got it. That's what brought down SARS. But let me say that the indiscipline came from within, but was imposed from without.
So now the IG is bringing in SWAT. Back to my question.
Right.
What will be your advice?
Well,
for
first,
it to become effective, disciplined, cohesive, and result-oriented.
First and foremost, the mandate must be clearly worked out. It should be a mandate that it works as a strike force. What I mean, and I said it, I think, in one of the programs about 2 weeks ago, where I said, SARS of Nigeria is the SWAT of America. Now, let it be just like the SWAT of America. You have a properly trained, highly disciplined, very, taking care of units of personnel, and I mean men and women, who will only come out when you have a challenge where ordinary looking at the situation, you would say whoever is going to save that situation has a lot of risk to his own life. Those are the kind of situations they will come out. For example, rescue operation. For example, confronting armed robbers, pursuing them, and other similar operations, including challenge to some of these banditry operations. And the Police Trust Fund is making a lot of arrangements to support them in that regard. Now, those are the kind of mandates. So long as they remain on these mandates, it will be highly successful. It will perform far, far better than when SARS was at its peak.
Now let's look at the enabling law that was signed by President Muhammadu Buhari just recently, the Police Act 2020. As a lawyer yourself, what will you say are the salient features or provisions of this law that will further enhance, strengthen, and, if you like, lead to the kind of attitudinal change that you advocated in 2015?
The most salient feature of the 2020 Police Act is the democratic nature of policing contained in it. Almost every aspect of police action, from that of stop and search, to arrest, to even the search in homes and offices, to detention, the provisions of the law, both at international and at national level, are observed. For example, you don't arrest somebody without telling him why you are arresting him. You don't detain somebody for more than the 24 hours the law provides. So it is an international provision, and it is a domiciled law that once we keep to it, automatically the effectiveness and the efficiency of police.
As a former IG, what do you say to a provision that says that the police must inform the next of kin or a relative of a suspect that person is under their detention? Well, especially in a situation of Nigerian situation that we have, whereby you don't, the person number one that you may even have as a suspect doesn't even have identity.
Well, the whole purpose of policing is not to destroy. the whole purpose of policing is to protect and, enhance the safety of people and their properties. So if for any reason you effect an arrest, the humanity in you should tell you that you should do everything possible to assist him, even if he's a suspect in the most violent crime. So it is the humanity in the police officer that should even push him into getting to the relations of the suspect.
So what will you say to, let's just very quickly, Ruth, what will you say to section 66, subsection 1 of the Police Act, which stipulates that only professional lawyers, trained lawyers within the police force can undertake prosecution? Well, and I would want you to answer both along in the sense that how many of such officers do you have in the police force now? And if you don't have enough, how will you implement this kind of section?
Well, let me say that the Nigeria Police Force has the highest number of lawyers in the country as a single organization. I'm not saying the office of the Attorney General at the federal and the state level. If you combine them, of course, they have more lawyers than the Nigeria Police. Which means we have a stake and we are recognized by law to a certain extent that we are involved in prosecution. But let me also say that that is a delegated power. Until the Attorney General delegates it, it does not hold.
But it is now an act.
Yes, it is.
A smart lawyer outside can tell the court that the prosecution is null and void because section 66 subsection 1 is not adhered to.
No, it doesn't work that way. State governments can at their own level, promulgate what we may call, the guidelines for the courts. The fact of the matter is that in some states, and I can take Kano for example, it does not stop police officers from prosecuting. And where it says police officer, a lawyer, and then it also says not when he's not a full lawyer, the state can also delegate him to prosecute. They are talking about those who have read law but have not gone to law school. My happiness is that this kind of law will challenge those who have not gone to law school to do so that they become full
because
lawyers.
We have really seen some prosecution happen, outside the court in the police. But that aside, let's look at the perception of the public, because even if we're having a reform of the police force, you still will have them face to face with the citizens whose life they protect. Now, there has been this negative perception from the people, even before this whole uprising, and we have the slogan, police is your friend. Where do we begin to draw the line and change the narrative so that people will begin to see the police is actually your friend, especially when it comes to rule of engagement with the citizens?
We have to come back to attitudinal change.
Exactly.
There's no way you can make your family become one unless you make their attitude to realize that becoming one is better than everybody going his own way. The police is a noble organization with international perspectives, with norms and ethics and values. These are what will form the attitude of a police officer. And that was the package that I made, or in fact, even with support from a general in the military, who was a supervisor, at the Nigerian Institute for Policy and Strategic Studies. And he agreed to join my own team, police officers, and together we all sat down and drew up or came up with how to go about with the strategy and the plan. It was just launching that we had not done, but we started the implementation.
Former IG, why is that report now? And will you be giving it to the current Inspector General?
I'm always a lucky man. I'm always a lucky man because the Inspector General of Police is a trustee in the Police Trust Fund, and the law establishing the Police Trust Fund says that the trust fund can make policy for the Nigeria Police. So I'm going to dust it, and I'm sure
Will disciplinary action from the top be part of that report? Because if a policeman, for example, commits a certain crime against human rights violation, and nothing is done, it happens again.
No, I agree with you. When you see things like that happening, it is the fault of the supervisors, but the law is there. And that's what went wrong with SARS.
Now, let's look at the Nigeria Police Fund Pension Limited. You're also chairman of the Police Trust Fund.
Board of Directors
Board of Directors of the Trust Fund. What is the difference between the two? Because you appear to be the head in both.
Well, I hope you won't call me double chair. Well, it's part of, I'm humbled, let me say, that I am chair of the Nigeria Police Force Pensions Limited. Now, that is a PFA, a Pension Fund Administrator. Mm-hmm. There are 22 of them in the country. You have, without advertising anybody, you have the premium pensions and so on and so forth. The police, when they wanted to pull out of the contributory pension scheme, government decided to give a license to the police to rather have their own fund administrator. So it was named NPF Pensions Limited. Mm. And I happen to be the second chairman of the board of directors. By coincidence, yes, it was established in 2012, but the license was given to the Nigeria Police in 2014 when I was Inspector General of Police. And we immediately commenced operations, and by the special grace of God, and He gave us the efforts, and we are now about number 5 in the country, all within 6 years.
Among all these pension fund administrators?
Yes.
Wow.
And we are the first to build our corporate headquarters from foundation level to finishing, and without stopping, and without borrowing.
In fact, President Buhari commended that aspect and said he noticed that even during COVID-19 period,
yes,
you did not stop construction.
No, we stopped. We complied with the instructions. We stopped.
Well, now let's look at the issue of retirees resettlement support scheme. That appears to be one of the key.
That's the beauty of it.
Of the pension limited.
Yes.
How are you going to go about that, and what have you done so far?
Well, so far we've spent quite hundreds of millions. In fact, we spend close to about 500 million every year in supporting retirees ahead of getting their benefits. Now, the beauty of it is that as chairman of the board of trustee of the Nigeria Police Trust Fund, I'm making efforts to convince my colleagues trustees to also look at the possibility of contributing into that purse, so that if perhaps we are lucky, we expand it to about 1 billion every year. It will then mean that every retiring police officer will have something reasonable to commence, taking care of life. Yes, taking care of himself before his benefits are given to him.
But you know, there's this challenge of accrued, backlog rather of, arrears and their rights, being delayed. Will that also be corrected?
Well, I would want to leave that to the government, because the individual contributors do have or do make their own contributions, but the counterpart from the government sometimes get delayed. But I would say that not quite 2 weeks ago, government released certain amount that will go a long way, in alleviating the problem there. The problem in that is that there's a law that says you don't give what a contributor has saved without getting the government contribution counterpart. Now we are pleading that let us be allowed to give contributor what he has saved ahead of the government counterpart, and government is looking at that.
Well, Suleiman Abba, former Inspector General of Police and Chairman Nigeria Police Force Pension Limited, and again Chairman Nigeria Police Force Trust Fund. Thank you so much for your insights on these very vexed issues that we have raised here, and the ongoing crisis that we're having across the country. We pray for the amicable resolution of the whole situation. Thank you so much for your insights, sir.
Thank you very much. I want to join government in pleading with all those involved to please come to the table. Let there be a dialogue. Let the problem be solved.
Ruth Agwele?
Thank you very much.
Thank you too. Platform examine the arising challenges of police reform in Nigeria. Our guest, former Inspector General of Police Suleiman Abba, who is also Chairman Nigeria Police Pension Limited, says it is work in progress. That's Platform. Thank you for watching. I'm Muhammad Kura Abubakar. Bye for now.
"24 hours a day, 7 days